questions as well. But we are now officially recording, and hi everybody. We've got our friend Diego here from Guatemala and other friends from Peace Lutheran and around the area. So I'm going to spotlight Diego, and Diego, if you would just tell us more about who you are and about the ministry in Guatemala.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for the invitation. Being in the Bible study of Peace Lutheran is something very, very joyful for me. I am from Guatemala, and I am from the Lutheran Church in Guatemala, ILAG. So it's the Iglesia Luterana Agustina de Guatemala. We are a church since 1991. We are a ELCA church. We serve most of the time in the rural area. We have 17 congregations, and each congregation, they have their own council. Our ministries are based in education, empowering women, music, and we truly believe in an integral development. So I born in a country that spent 60 years in civil war, and we are a pluricultural and multilingual country. So that means that we have 22 different ethnies, and we have 22 different languages. Spanish is one of them, and the other languages, you can speak Ekchi, Mam, Pocomam, because they are or their origins are from the Mayas. So in society, sometimes it's very tricky to have this relationship, because you have the background of war and also the background of everyone has different languages, different customs, but we are doing great. We have the opportunity, and the families have the opportunity to access God. As for example, the Lutheran Church gives a gospel of love and understanding and welcoming. So we were talking about our favorite thing in church. For that reason, I was talking about the second home and a place where you can share your joys and your, what do you think, your challenges, and then after that you can feel like you have another breath to continue, right? And our churches are in the rural area, as I was talking about, and they are more in the rural part, in the north of the country. Sometimes they don't have light, they don't have electricity, they don't have running water, they don't have a health clinic nearby. So what ILAC does is to find opportunities to develop those needs that are human needs. Also, we have the children ministry and the youth ministry, and it's really fun. We really enjoy sharing and caring in the communities, because it's like encounter once again, like when a big family, right? Like for example, I experienced in some churches in United States is the same dynamic, and it's really cool to see different people in other countries as being Lutherans, right? Because Lutherans in Guatemala are not so common. We are mostly people in the families in Guatemala mostly are or Catholic or evangelical. So it was being Lutheran. Sometimes it's like, oh, why is that religion? So you need to tell the story. So, but I think right now in the city we have also Milagro Center, that is the boarding school that gives opportunity to young ladies to develop their technical skills, and also develop their how do you say that, their normal education, like going to school, because in the rural area also access to school is sometimes challenging, and more for a young lady. So sometimes Milagro comes from the needs of young ladies were given delivered to marriage at the age of 13, 14 years old.
Wow.
So when they got 18 years old, they are mothers of 2 or 3 kids.
Mm.
And as the families they have many childrens, they prefer to give education to boys because they are the head of the family sometimes, or they have the responsibility. And the women's they don't get education. They don't get to get to school, maybe elementary school, and the best of the cases. So what Milagro does is give the opportunity for them to study and also develop a technical skill to in the future have a business or something that they can make a living from that. Also, we have a Lutheran school in the city too that gives a opportunity for kids that they are not able to pay for a private school to have an education too. So that's maybe in very short story what we are doing. But if you have questions, I will be glad to answer.
Wonderful. Thank you, Diego. Well, let me, I'll unspotlight you and we'll bring everybody else back on screen here. And folks, whatever, we'll take some time here to ask some questions, questions that you might have or questions that other people in the congregation might be interested in. I think maybe to kick it off, Diego, when did the Civil War in Guatemala come to an end?
In 1996 with the peace accords.
Okay, and as I recall, the Civil War was mostly kind of upper class folks in the government in the city, mostly against kind of the rural areas, Mayan descendants, indigenous people, mostly, right?
Yeah, what happens was that we have 2 spheres of power, and in the war, the spheres of power, they didn't confront you. It was the military, the army against the people in the rural areas, in the villages, because they were fighting for human rights and land. So everything was really weird in the city. It was something that it was just people disappearing, people who were fighting for the human rights, they were getting disappeared. And in the rural area, you have the war, like the actual war. So most of the families, they were refugees in Mexico. So then in 1996, they came back, and government and the groups that conformed the other party were signing the peace accords. Mhm.
Okay, so a lot of the people so that affects the congregations in Elog because a lot of the members of the congregation, they had been refugees. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Mm-hmm.
And then when they came back to Guatemala, did they get to go back to their old homeland, their old town, or what happened when they came back?
No, everything was changed, and most of the times where their land were given to other people. So when they came back, they got land again, but in a different part of the country that they didn't know, and they were just dropped in the jungle, for example, and they were like, "There you go, you have your land. So good luck." And so they start from zero. They spend sometimes they spend 10 years in refugee camps in Mexico. So they do have a generation that they couldn't access to education, to have a degree. So they were just dropped in the jungle and they start from zero there, and they did their best. Mhm.
Were they given the land by the government, or did they have to purchase land, or what happened there?
Most of them, they received land.
Okay.
We call them fincas. That is a big piece of land, like a big plot, and then the families who were signing the peace accords, like they coordinate several groups of families, and then as a family and a group of families, they were given that finca, and then they divide the plots. So, and other ones, they were able to pay an amount for 30 years, for example, a significant loan, but not with a large interest. So it depending of the negotiation. Mhm.
Gotcha.
What happened besides the country's not at war? Is the country better off now? Or what kind of government do you have?
We have, well, for sure, after a 60 years of war, we are doing better. We reinforce the peace, the idea of peace, but sometimes it's hard when the government is doing the same thing over and over again. We have a government that is very corrupt. People is not, they don't have access in the rural area to a good medical system, a good education system. Roads are in bad shape sometimes because government are not, they say that they put that money in the roads and you can notice that is not happening. So the government is not doing a good job right now. And it goes like this. Sometimes you think like, oh, we're going in a good way, and like you hear about something and you notice that for example, our government works as the president, the figure of the president, and also the Congress. So Congress is very corrupt too. So
Are they voted in? Do you have open elections?
we have open elections, right? That's right. Mhm.
Interesting.
Are you allowed to speak out and question things?
Oh yeah, you are allowed, but
Doesn't do
sometimes,
anything.
sometimes people don't want to talk because consequences. Yes.
Ginger, I think Ginger has a question, but she's muted right now,
Okay.
and it will be deep and insightful.
Oh, you're right. I just wonder about worshiping. Is there total freedom in worshiping, or you said the Lutheran Church is not well known?
Mhm.
Is that a problem or not
Eh,
really?
At the beginning was a problem in the communities because they were saying like, oh, you are inventing that church. That church, it's like, it's your invention. And like, no, it exists for many, many years ago. So no, we are free. We have free. We are free to gather and to celebrate our ministry. So, but it's just people need to know, and sometimes people they have fear of the unknown. So,
Yeah.
but because we have this system of partnerships, partner church, so it helps a lot when a partner church of the states goes and visits a church in Guatemala, because that gives the reinforcement of you are not alone. We also are Lutherans.
Okay.
Yes, that's the.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Was there a large development of the Catholic religion in there back in the, when the Spanish were invading all of that area? Did the Catholic religion stick there? I mean, continue?
Yeah, by history, we are most Catholic in Guatemala. We are entire Catholic. It just to have a picture is we have the presidential palace, and next to the presidential palace we have a big Catholic church. So it's like is how we were conquisted by the Spanish. And but now in these days, most of the people or we have a good amount of people that they are evangelical.
Mm.
I love it.
Diego, when you mention girls of about 13 getting married, now do young people choose their own partners? Is it arranged? I know that sounds like a goofy question, but
Oh, it's a good question.
So
It's a good
young.
question. Yes. It's I think it's a custom and comes from the need. Most of the time it's arranged,
Mm.
and most of the time the parents receive something
Mm.
as an exchange, as a wedding gift, for example. But sometimes customs are not like the best practices, and most of the time the girls don't know, right? Sometimes it's just because it's the way how it is, they choose that. So we want to try to break that cycle and give the opportunity to young ladies who are not interested in getting married, or they want to study and they want to, so, and to make that step for them is, they need to be very brave, because it's your home, it's your society, right? So saying, I want to study, I want to, and study here in Guatemala, most of the time you need to go private, because public system is very small, like the education system, and you have big, like the classes with a lot of people, like very crowded, and it's hard sometimes to study in a public school. Mhm.
And is it still the case that that there's only enough public schools for half of the children in the country?
That's right, that's the case.
I suppose they're mostly in the city that go to school. There's
Mhm.
probably not much in the rural area.
No, in the rural area, sometimes they have a school that they need to walk 2 hours to go to school and then come back, like 2 hours going to school and 2 hours coming back. And yeah.
One of my favorite stories, I forget which village it was in, but the village, they don't have a school in the village itself. And so what they do is they take the 20 or 30 kids from the village, and they'll pick one of the moms. One of the moms says, okay, I've got kid duty this week. And they'll take the kids across the river on the bus down the road to a house that they rent in a neighboring village. And then that mom will kind of supervise the kids going to school throughout the week and then get them back home for the weekend. I'm like, wow, that's dedication to education right there.
It's Nuevo Porvenir. That's right. That's the village. Mhm.
And Diego, you can tell, and I'll be quiet after this because I don't want to, which is hard for me to be quiet. But being interested in women's rights, are these mostly when these young ladies of 13, 14, do they have home births, midwives? Are there any medical facilities? Is there high infant mortality rate? I'm just curious of the health of young women having children.
In most of the communities, they have midwives,
Okay.
and they are good.
Okay.
They have experience, but the high mortality of kids, it's high. The mortality of kids is high, and you know that a girl that is 12, 13, 14, 15, they are not prepared to give birth. So sometimes it's something very sad. So, but people in Guatemala, I think they are receiving information. Also, we have many organizations who are working in that. So that's the good news, that they are giving opportunities to young ladies to receive education and to have opportunity to study. So
Good.
that's good news.
What size, how many kids do most of the families have? Is there an average size?
Well, in like, for example, in my generation, I can see in some communities that they are planning, and that's really cool. They have 2 or 3 kids, and that's planification for us right now. But most of the families, they have 6, 7, up to 10 kids. I know a family that they have 14. So
Oh my gosh.
yes, that's right.
Do
Well,
the
thank-
chur-
Oh,
Do the-
go ahead. So after Pete, I'm going to have one final question, and then we'll move to Bible study.
Yes,
Are
Pastor.
there relief organizations that are active in these rural communities in Guatemala?
Yes, if I know a organization that they're active, that's you were asking that?
Relief, like, that provide medical or food or education.
Yes, we have many ONGs. That's a word, right? NGOs or NGOs?
Yeah.
NGO. I
NGO.
switched because in Spanish is ONGs, so NGOs that works in different ministries, right? Or in different developing initiatives that, for example, as you were saying, in alimentary security, yeah, security of food security.
Oh.
Also with the women's rights, they work also with hygiene. I know some movements from doctors of Guatemala that works with doctors in the United States to have like these clinics. They offer, like, for example, a weekend of free health for the families. But we have many villages, so we need a lot of efforts from a lot of people. And
Yes.
sometimes you find good initiatives from government, from the different ministries, and you can take the opportunity to focus that help to the communities, that support. Mhm.
Does that include Lutheran World Relief or Lutheran organizations?
Yes, Lutheran World Relief, they work in Guatemala, and they have also a mission here.
Yep, and there's a lot of work being done in and through ELOG. And one of the beautiful things I think of the church there is that they walk alongside people with normal needs of clean water, sanitation, infant mortality, education, all those kind of things. They're right there in step with them. And then they also have been invited to accompany the villagers with the gospel and with the word and with the sacraments. And so it's been this beautiful, beautiful partnership that the Diego and Pastor Karen and the pastoral team has done to walk with these different villagers in the midst of life. And it's really a beautiful ministry. So Diego, thank you for the introduction. Everybody, thank you for the questions. And Diego, before we start Bible study, how do you do Bible studies in Guatemala?
I think is the same dynamic. I don't know how you do it. I think this is my first Bible study in English, but it's reading the lecture and just sharing about what the Bible study tells you, what the Bible reading tells you. So
Okay,
that's my guess.
perfect.
Thank
Well,
you, Pastor Steven.
yeah, absolutely. Well, everybody wave at the camera while we finish the recording. So Diego, thanks. Please give our greetings to everybody in Guatemala. And we will pause this.